Hey, S. Patrick Brooks here from the Heavy Underground Farm Report. Today we have an interview with Sunil Singh. This is our second conversation with Sunil. We talked before Ripplefest, and we're going to have our post-Ripplefest conversation. Sunil is the author of this book here, Sonic Seducer. It's a book about our scene. It's Lust for Life with our heaviest moments, memories, and magic of rock and roll. Definitely check this book out. We're going to get right to it. So we've got Sunil Singh. Yeah! Hey everybody, this is S. Patrick Brooks from the Heavy Underground Farm Report, and I have Sunil Singh today. We're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff. We're gonna talk about his book, obviously, and we're gonna talk about Ripplefest, and Sunil has a math conference coming up that I want to talk about, and we'll talk a little bit about the relationship between mathematics and music that we enjoy. But Sunil, thanks for being on today. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thanks a lot. It's always great. I mean, this is obviously the second time I've been on. It feels like somehow I've been on more because we're always communicating through Facebook,
Yeah.
and it's the same. It's the conversations are like they're static, but it feels like we're always in some form of communication, especially post Ripple now, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Ripplefest. So tell
okay,
me, it's been 2 months. It's been 2 months since. Go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
okay. I want you to actually start in terms of how you're feeling now 2 months distant from it. I mean, obviously coming a
I'll
week, but now we're
uh,
2 months removed. I want your take, your perspective on that.
I'll tell you, man. Not to get all a heavy, super heavy start, but after Ripplefest, I like was definitely really depressed. Like like that. It was such a high, and it was like one of the most amazing weekends I've ever spent. And the music was great, and everybody I met was fantastic. And it was really, I tried not to have expectations about what was going to happen that weekend, but it
Yep.
surpassed any sort of expectations I would have had. And I think I went through a period of like being bummed out, like, but why can't that be like every day? I don't know. Maybe it was the weather changing. Maybe it was just because that was such a high moment. It was, and then after a couple of weeks, I felt better, and like the memories are fantastic, and I like had more. It's been like a difficult thing to process because it was such an overwhelming emotional experience. Like really not like any concert experience I ever went to, and like going to Planet Desert Rock last year was an emotional experience too. But this was different because I knew people that I met there. And I think that deepened the experience. And then talking to you and hanging out with you and hanging out with John and hanging out with Colin and meeting so many people from all over the world. It was, man, it was like a really like unexpectedly huge emotional event for me. So, man, I that's how it's been going. How about you, man?
Well, what I'm going to say is I think, might do two things. It might make you more depressed,
That's
but it's
okay.
also going to, after we come through it, like I went through I mean, of course, I mean, uh, I wrote a blog for Metal Talk.
Mhm.
So did Colin. So there was all these blogs, the photos, all
Yeah.
the photographers that were there, Melanie, like there was so much to remember and reflect. And I don't remember, I go to shows quite a bit, but I went through uh, all my photos, all my videos. Okay. Every single one. When Ryan uploaded the Domkraft and Dozer shows, and they were so well done. Like I'm honestly going, it's fucking Christmas every day now. It's just raining Christmas, right? It's
Yeah.
not like hey, it's like I was there. I was there. In fact, I'm in. We're I think in some of the Domkraft video. We're there. And
Yeah.
this is what I'm trying to get at. That even though we experienced it, like everything that we've talked about, the music, the emotional connections, the memories, the clarity, for me, it still feels like I wasn't present enough.
Oh yeah. I
Like it feels like, oh my God, I was there.
but was I there?
And
Was I?
I was present, but now looking back, I go, that was more magical than I even experienced
Yeah. Yeah.
because
I
of
can
my
totally identify with that.
because of that's why I asked you 2 months in. Okay, you go, wow, like that's such a great memory, and there's local shows, and Planet Does a Rock coming up, and but there was something really
Sorry.
just unique on an artistic level. And I think you obviously read Melanie's outlier response
Yes.
or something, right?
Man, it was
Uh,
cool reading from her perspective,
her perspective, right?
being like not real, a little bit outside of the scene, and it was validating her because she saw what I felt. It was
That's
validating. It was like, oh
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
that was real.
I think that word validation happened. You know, all like I mean, I wrote a blog about it, but Daryl, the trauma surgeon who bought a box of my books, the first official day, 7:30, I'm sitting in the blue Muskoka turquoise chair, about 50 feet away from the yellow stage. He comes up to me and he grabs my forearm that's resting on the chair, and Melanie was there. I mean, I'm glad I had a witness. I mean, you would have believed me anyways, but Melanie
Of
was the
course.
witness. And she goes, he went to me, Sneal, I didn't even want to come today, and like I didn't respond to him like this, but my mind going, what do you mean you didn't want to
What?
come today? Like, this is why
Yeah.
isn't this why you came from Phoenix? I didn't say this, but then he continues. He says, I want to finish reading your book. And then he
Yeah,
goes,
man.
nobody has validated my existence more than you and your book, and that includes my ex-wife and my mother.
I love
Now,
that
I'm not
story.
ready to process stuff like that. I'm ready to process, hey, that's a fucking cool book, man. There's a lot of good music in there. That's my level of I can give you back. I'm sitting there and this guy's pouring his like I don't have that in my capacity at that moment to process. And I think and there's a lot of moments like that. I had that with Mike from Leatherlung when
Yeah.
at nighttime, you know, uh, I showed him that Leatherlung was in the book, and this like hours after their amazing show, and I used my phone flashlight, and he grabbed the phone from my arm, and he ran it up and down his left arm to show where the goosebumps were, and
Yeah, that's real,
it's
man.
it's 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 all those micro connections with and without the book that are still sitting with me fresh. There's no decay. There's no like, and all
There's
I
no
can do is
decay.
like, I can't wait to meet my family like again. And this time I'll be even more present, but still have the same feeling coming out of it. Like yeah, it would, that's, it's hard to put into words. I just did, but I'm also happy to be at a loss for words.
Yes, I get that. The presence. Yeah, I felt that too. I've the last couple of weeks I've spent some time looking at the videos and watched Domkraft's set and watched Baracho's set a couple nights ago, and um man, watched some of Blue Heron's set, and that one was particularly emotional for me. Um, yeah, that was like some of those moments like are so vivid, and then some of those things are like, man, I like it's hard to be. It's like hard to like act like completely focus on 40 straight bands. And so um I think that it was like I got so much out of it, but yeah, I wish I could have like had the mental capacity to take in even more. But like, man, Ripplefest really pushes that, how much what how much sensory information you can absorb, right? I mean, because there's a lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot, and we forget it's like Austin, Texas, which is a cool city on its own.
Right.
You got the Far Out Lounge and Sagebrush, two different venues, indoor, outdoor. You got the ubiquitous picnic tables all over Austin. It feels like you're in somebody's super cool backyard. But even that sort of walk from the yellow stage to the main stage through that light gravel, all those sensory experiences I remember. And
Mm-hmm.
it's that which makes it special. If it was like everything super smooth, like it's the collage of humanity,
Yeah.
right? It's really, and I said before we were actually came on, started taping. I said I wanted to read a couple passages from
Mm-hmm.
Wiser Time, uh, because of course I wrote the book prior to Ripple, but now we've exited Ripple. Is there anything in that chapter which resonates? So this is from the yeah, chapter 8, and it's centered by Molly Sides, um, of Thunder Pussy. They're playing in Boston, and they're about to go into Sweet Emotion. And the rhythm section, the bass has already started, and she's talking to the audience, and she says this: touring is so important. Touring is traveling. It's what we do. It's what we should do, because traveling means connection and communication. It means introduction to a new face, new place, new people. It's very important. At this moment in time, would love for you to turn to someone to your right, to your left, behind you, or in front of you, and introduce yourself to somebody new. Get off your booties, unlock your arms, shake their hands. This is so important. Don't look at me, look at somebody new. Look into their eyes, say your name out loud, and listen to their name. Get off your phone, get off your cameras, fucking disconnect, because this shit is liquid. This is your time, because you never know, you might fall in love tonight. And
Yeah, man.
I mean, I had that dripping like I I wasn't super conscious, but I obviously wrote that. And so I had that added layer of being present and looking around, seeing face. Like I was doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
I, it's that stuff is liquid, man. You should bottle that shit. Like, eh, and I know people go to concerts, and the only thing which I think can compare, honestly, really, it's completely different. Is what Taylor Swift is doing, playing 3 hour shows with all her hits. Yes, you can have the money to have a light show and stuff, but it's the only thing I can see in the outside world, which is maybe parallels, but it's still Ripple and festivals like Ripple. But I think Ripple is unique because we
I
talked
do
to
too.
Ian and Jamie from across, and they said we've been to festivals. There's nothing like Ripple.
Right. I believe
It,
that. Yeah, I think that's a unique experience.
and some of those Ripple folks are going to be at Planet Desert. So I think there's going to be this caravan community that we will start to see. I mean, some of them have already started seeing each other
Yeah, I
for a
think
couple
we're
of years
jumping
now,
on
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first time I came into this family. Now, I experienced this at admissions 20 years ago. I'm familiar with the dynamics of cool conversations, overwhelming music. That was 20 years ago. I was younger. I'm 60, and I value that way more now than when I was 40 or 20. This isn't like,
Mm-hmm.
whew, I did it. That's cool. I still got the legs to listen to music for a long period of time. Check. It's like Benjamin fucking Buttons. As I'm getting older, my inner soul is getting younger.
Sunil, when I was in the when I was in the shower today, I thought, I thought there's like you talked about your age, and I'm just a couple of years younger than you, and I'm thinking about a lot of the bands we listen to are pretty close to our age as well, in their 40s, guys in their late 30s. And I thought, like, a lot of popular music really seems to be geared towards getting kids involved, getting kids excited. Let's find the new young audience. Let's capture the new young audience. And I was thinking today, it's like, are we listening to like a genre of music that has decided to capture the old audience instead of capturing the young audience? Like, because I mean, is there? Am I
That's
just crazy?
that's
Is there anything to that?
that's a. I never thought about that, like in terms of newer bands capturing the older audience. Um, but having said that, I'm back home and I gave some books to friends of mine I've known for a long time. In fact, I wrote about them in the book. But if they were to ask me like anything about Ripple or even the book,
Yeah.
all I can do is hand off the book. Like honestly, that's why I wrote the book because it took me that many words to explain this. I don't think I can distill it to my friends going, "Hey, so what band should I check out?" I wouldn't even know where to start. I have it's like an alien coming on a planet. Like the love language is completely different. Like I might go,
Yeah.
"Hey, do you like Floyd? Do you like Sabbath?" And that's why I think I wrote the book because I don't think I have the patience, even with my best friends, to. I don't want to be a teacher.
No.
I've been a
No.
teacher in so many ways. I want to listen to music. I want people to steer me. It's like the Tour de France, where you're in the lead all the time.
Yeah.
I'm tired of leading. I want to just ride my bike at the end and go wherever, like somebody else lead.
Tell me
Like
how you
that's the
feel.
phase I want to be in.
Tell me how you feel about this. So this is kind of how I feel. It's like you have the people have the resources. The resources are available. They're my friend on Facebook. They see the weird shit I throw out there. It's like,
That's,
go listen to King Buffalo
I know,
or
I
whatever. And
know where you're going with this.
at this point, it's like, what more do I mean, I think I've done what I
Okay,
need to do. And so if you don't have natural curiosity, I don't like
you
it's almost
just,
like a
I
reverse
was,
gatekeeping. It's like
I
they're not willing
just,
to open the gate.
you said the word, and I'm glad you said the C word, curiosity. Um, I mean, I would have said it, but I'm glad you said it. It's all about that. Um, it's the it's the incuriosity, and why people just music. It was great when I was young, um, and they just associate that with a certain part of their life where they start to obviously, hey, what's on Netflix or what book you're reading and all that. They tend to be contemporary, up to date. But there's a certain incuriosity, this sort of calcified thinking. And again, with everything being available, and like you said, people see your posts, your friends see your posts. My
Yeah.
friends see my posts about music.
Yep.
What they're telling me, um, in some way, well, it's like, well, it doesn't really interest me, or I don't got time. Uh, I mean, the friends who obviously are they are super curious, but I think they're curious by nature. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of my friends, I don't know, I think our friends our ages, good people, good conversations, good memories, but they're on autopilot now. And it goes the that Anthony Bourdain quote I have in there too. I'm not going to paraphrase myself, but he basically didn't trust because chefs have appetites outside of cooking. Like they love to talk about travel, sex, a whole bunch of topics. And he didn't trust people who didn't have that sort of wide palette.
Right.
And this the music is symbolic of again. If we were listening to like I don't know, think of something way way out there, right? The ironic part, the Shakespearean irony part, and we've had this maybe conversation before, it's the same kind of blueprint template of rock, blues, jazz, psychedelic prog that you loved, that you really loved because you felt it was cutting edge, a bit
Yeah.
rebellious and dangerous. All those things that you relished when you were young, You basically have locked away and said, okay, I'm done. Um, and the benefits that you would get, like that's why Melanie's response to me, her words relative way more important than my blog. I mean, I'm a fan, right? I'm writing
Yeah.
from a fan's perspective.
No,
No
yeah,
one's
yeah.
Melanie came there and she's already got some friends curious that they might come. I think something like Ripple, and I felt this before I went, but now, especially after Melanie's experience, it's for anyone who has an open mind.
Yeah. So so the open mind things, like, so we're talking about a society. I mean, I'm in the United States, and things have been disappointing for the last month, to say the least. There's a glorification of ignorance in the country. There's a degradation of the educational base. And I don't want to make this political, but
No,
I think when you start losing educational base, you start losing the curiosity that you're talking about. Do you think there is a direct correlation between people um, having things kind of dumbed down for them and their inability to grasp some of the more complex stoner doom type of metal, longer songs, complicated time changes? Do you think that's related in
I
any
think
way, or am I just reaching
I
because
think
you're a math guy?
well, I think there's a book um, Nicholas Carr came out 15 years ago called The Shallows, and it was recommended by my friend Peter Harrison. He said you got to read this book, and it took me a while to read it, but basically it's about how our brains start to adapt from being deep processors of information. So our neuronal roots got shallower so we could become better skimmers because we were overwhelmed with data and information. So our brain thought it was doing us a service because of all the information that I was seeing. So even you and I, even though we're listening to these long songs and
Yeah,
that, we have still lost something. And that's why this music, this scene is like medicine. It
yeah,
is like medicine. Like I we talked about this before, like I listen to albums. Even when I listen, I listened in the last 2 months, I think I went back and listened to Yes's Relayer, the first side, Gates of Delirium. And I watched the 1975 video of it at Queen's Park, where Queen's Park Rangers, the soccer team plays. It's an amazing video, and for me, those 25 minutes goes by like that
yeah,
because every note, every thing. So I think there's something medicinal that's happening to our attention when we are in this space. I also think curiosity, and I apply this to mathematics, but I apply people who are curious uh, in general. But if you're curious about a couple of things, um, it's really good for your mental health
yeah,
because you can't if you're overwhelmed with life and stuff. I'm not saying you don't have good mental health if you're not curious, but any curious person I've met, they've got a positive mental health going on, right?
yeah. I think
They
that
don't need
I'm thinking about that, and yeah, I think there's a
it
definite
is
correlation between them. Yeah.
there's meditative, there's a whole, like I remember at Ripple during the Truck Fighter set. I've only done this 3 times in my life where I walked away. I did it in Rollins back in 1990, where I just tapped out. I go, I'm done. I can't. This is. They just kept going on like the Energizer fucking bunny. Like I went back to where the picnic tables were, and I sat, and it was such a good perspective. Like here, that they're playing in the distant. I already got my
Hmm.
fix. Yeah, see, it seems like it's peaking, but it wasn't like I want to run back. I chose to be here, so let me enjoy this vista where I can
Yeah.
see what's happening on the yellow stage, and now as they're finishing up. and it was very I mean, it's loud as fuck, but it was very peaceful. I would no,
Oh,
I wasn't talking. Melanie wasn't there. She was still taking photographs. There was nobody around me. Um, it was very zen. Like it's a it's a
well, I
crazy.
saw you during that period because I was sitting in a similar spot, and I remember you sitting
Oh
by yourself, and
yeah.
like, you know, yeah, you looked very content in that moment.
Oh, I
And
was just peaceful. Um, it felt like, I mean, it's home. Um, and this word came up a couple times. Came Mario Lawley said it, and but somebody else said it too. And of course, if Mario Lawley is going to say this word, we're going to listen a bit more.
of course,
Um, and I'm glad he said it because I feel this way. It feels like we are in the Renaissance era, like in terms of arts and culture, and of course, music being a big part of it. Um, and again, with the Renaissance era, like everything that was happening, came through the Dark Ages. Now, having said that, when we call the Dark Ages, that's from a European perspective because during that period was like the height of the Arabic Islamic Empire, especially in mathematics. So Dark Ages was dark in Europe. It wasn't dark in that part of the world where a lot of
yeah,
mathematics.
unfortunately, we have such a narrow
Oh,
view of the
of the
and
world.
man,
But
that's a
that's what
whole
I
nother
feel.
show.
But that's what I feel like.
Yeah,
That's what like Ripplefest, the Far Out Lounge. I know this is a stretch, and I don't mind stretching and having come back in, but there is such um, uh, amazing people, knowledge, uh, uh,
there's a high level
intellectual
conversation.
conversation. You can have a
There were high level
that's
conversations
that's
at that, and we weren't talking about the fucking weather, although we could have been because we're all
all we
sweating our balls
did.
off.
We did
But
talk
we weren't talking about the weather. We were talking about a lot more than that. And I just didn't have conversations just about the music either. But I met
oh
really interesting people, and it wasn't like, I don't know, there was just something special about the people there. And you really hit it. There, you have people that are curious people who are open to new experience and new music, and maybe that is like a like something that we have going there on the scene. That's like pretty cool.
and when you have a whole group of people like that, it's not just a curiosity, but there's also an inclusiveness. There's a kindness,
Yeah,
which is there, and that's all. It's with everyone, and you're going to get 99% of the time you're going to have this sort of openness, where, hey, nice to meet you, and 5 minutes later you can get into the weeds of someone's life, and
yeah,
because you feel safe. This that the whole far out lounge, even with its sort of like it's way up, it's got the gravel and it's got the picnic tables and it's feels a bit shambolic. um it For me, especially with all the people I talk to, and these, like you said, these great conversations, not just about music, but about each other and our
yeah,
lives and the world around us, and going back to it feels like the Renaissance era. um it's a place of like high artistic and intellectual ferment. Like there's a
hmm,
lot, like, yeah, we all, we're looking, we got our t-shirts, our bands and tattoos and getting, high and all that kind of stuff, which is, um but underneath it all and above it all, coming out of it, especially now 2 months, if we would have done this maybe a couple of days after, it it's it's better that we talk about it 2 months later,
like great
right? And because now we
hmm
got perspective, and
perspective. Yeah.
anyone who was there, you know, uh, I just want to tell all my friends, literally, who like music, you got to come to Ripple. You got to
Yeah,
come to
even if
Ripple.
that's not your music, you gotta
Even if
come
it's
check
not
it
your
out.
music, you are
Yeah,
going to meet the coolest people,
right.
and that's the and we haven't talked about it enough. I know it's kind of implied. At this stage, we don't need to keep, trumpeting it, but this is the best fucking music in the world.
Oh yeah.
Okay, like
And it was so diverse too, because like it's not
that's
just it's not just the same band, like I'm in the cannabis business, and I have people come in, they're like, all cannabis smells the same. It's like, well, no, it doesn't. It's like you don't understand the nuance, and like so like people like you and I and the people that were at Ripplefest, we understand the nuance. So all that music sounds very. But I mean, Blue Heron doesn't sound anything like Formula 400, and neither one
no.
of those bands sound anything like Domkraft, and I love all those bands. There is something. What do you think it is, Sunil, that um, makes those bands similar, puts those bands in the same grouping, even though they sound very different?
It's a good question because I've been thinking about that because you're right. There's and we all have got our sweet spot jam. Because there's a band, Canadian band I just got into, Cannabis, um, and they got the In Search of Fu Manchu fat riff. Like I'm the fat riff guy. Okay,
Yeah, I
you
like a
give me a
fat
fat
riff.
riff, and that goes all the way back to the first Montrose album. Okay, like
Yeah, sure,
that's some
yeah,
bloated, heavy, what Ronnie Montrose was doing, right? Like that's
sure.
there. I don't know. There was nothing else that was as fat as Space Station Number 5 or Bad Motor Scooter or Rock the Nation. So I
I
think it
love
was.
Bad Motor Scooter.
Oh my
Some
god,
good
I think
shit,
that's my
man.
favorite
Some
song.
good shit
It
there, man.
changed. It used to be Space Station Number. Well, actually, it was first Rock the Nation, but that was overplayed, and now it is Bad Motor Scooter. You know.
Yeah, man. At the fat riff thing, I think that's pretty prevalent throughout the bands that we like. As really
Well, let
is
me
the
let me answer the question.
yeah. Please.
So what connects? I think what connects, um, and I think Roadburn. I mean, Roadburn's changed. It's now really experimental, which is so cool. Like it's like just when
Yeah,
I think, hey, I'm at the edge. No, you're not even close. But I think what connects all the bands is first one that they all feel like they're part of this community. Everybody, it reminds me of kind of the Dog Down Z Boys, where everybody, when they were skateboarding, doing their thing inside the bowl, they were pushing each other. Like
yeah.
everybody was pushing each other. Everyone had a bit different style, but they're working in a very collaborative, communal way. And so every band, even though they're different, they feel like they're part of this. And in this space, which I think is a stretching, and I use that word a couple times early in the book, the idea of stretching,
Yeah.
um, is that before it used to be just like a Sabbath, Great Grand Funk Railroad, but now it's incorporating more psych, prog, jazz elements,
Yes.
maybe even a little bit of light pop. It's coming in. I think freedom to be an artist, to express yourself, take risks, but with that template of that 70s, 60s
Oh,
music, and to go even deeper. Like, uh, I think it's as I think I wrote in the book. It's probably I'm laughing because I shouldn't be quoting myself, but and I think Todd Severin he quoted me, uh, uh, "Freedom, freaks, and fuck off are back."
it's perfect.
It's the freedom's back. The freaks like hey anything goes and fuck off. Like we are
Yeah,
so confident in what we're doing. Join us. Hey, the more the merrier. But we
man.
don't.
That's
We give zero fucks as to what else is going on. And we had conversations about you know legacy journalists. I wrote a blog about that. I don't fuck. I don't care. I don't care. They're gonna die. They're choosing to be more popular, and they don't want to I think somebody was making defense of one journalist. That he's finding new music and stuff. Well, how come he hasn't found this? Because that journalist is more interested in getting there first. It's all ego. They don't
yeah.
want to.
Like, don't you think there's there's like I mean,
It's ego.
I mean, I throw my face out here on YouTube all the time, but I do think like I just like do it because I love it. I imagine there's some ego involved, but I mean, I think there's some ego involved in every band, but we certainly don't have ego on the scene like other music
No.
scenes. I mean, it's very, like you said, the collaboration. I mean, split records. I mean, who the fuck does that? It's crazy. And, the way bands like stand in the crowd, support their friends' bands. And, I forget who said it. Maybe it was Scott Spires, but almost every fan's in a band anyway. And so, you have like, you have like this, like almost more bands and fans scene, but it's like a family situation, like in a good way, not in a bad way. And yeah, I think the lack of ego, the fact that like you wrote a book and you'll come on and talk to me, and those bands see themselves in your book and they are like flattered, brings tears to their
Yeah.
eyes, validates their art.
Art. You said
Your
it.
book, writing your book validates art in a very important way that YouTube show doesn't do, or posts on Facebook don't do. Books are special. I'm 57 years old, so I still think books are cool, and I like reading
Oh,
books that like have pages. And to me, it's like you grew up with the encyclopedia. Maybe it's just some old school shit like that. But man, you're put like if I was
well,
in a band and I saw my name in your book, that would just be like, fuck, this is real, And I think that's cool. And it's cool how it all happens in this very egoless environment.
well, it's funny. So I have happen to have my first book I wrote, Pie of Life, The Hidden
Right
Happiness of
on.
Mathematics. I wrote that in 2017. Well, it came out in 2017. And we talked about, maybe talking about this, and I think just how my math world, um, they're identical. Now, having said, I want to share this story because it happened at Ripple, and uh, Daryl, DJ, you know, trauma surgeon, he said, Sunil, you don't like. He summed up his job really well. He says, my job is to stop bleeding. So other people, surgeons can't come in until the bleeding stop. And if the bleeding doesn't stop, that person's dead. That's how that's and obviously he's seen a lot, but and it
Sure.
was in that same conversation where he talked about validation of my book, he's going and I know he probably had a couple wobbly drinks but it was still very earnest in terms of what he said, which I'm going to tell you. He said, and I feel the exact same way, by the way. He said, Snail, I've been a trauma surgeon 30 years. I've taught students and, going to be surgeons, and he's done that. I just want to listen to music. And soon as he said that, he said what I was thinking, like, yeah, my bread and butter in terms of how I've made my living is mathematics. Don't get me wrong. I've written 3 books on mathematics. I love mathematics.
Yeah.
But as I was in the element of Ripple and it was day 2, it's like, it doesn't seem very practical or whatever. I just care about music. At this moment, I'm not thinking about the world of mathematics. I don't care about it. This is my world right now. And like you
That's why I
said
was
early
surprised.
on, why can't this? But somebody said it, captured it beautifully, saying, we're going to go back to reality on Monday.
Yeah, it was horrible.
But I wish I remember who it was, and he told Melanie this, so I'm getting kind of through third party. He said, "Why can't this be our reality? This is reality.
Yeah.
This is a reality."
Hmm.
And yeah, okay, you can't go to a festival concert like this every day. I get that, but
Right.
I I've been listening. Like I was listening to Domkraft well before, like someone
Sure.
like I will listen to the same song 7, 8 times in a day because I'm
Yeah.
obsessive like that. Because there's
Yeah.
there's a certain heaviness that I just need, and then I'll go and listen to other stuff, and I'm thinking already of the last night and Mario Lally and the Rubber Snakes, and even like 20 minutes in, I'm going, is this going to be like the best part of Ripple? I got a funny feeling, like, like, and then of course I heard like they've done this stuff. Joshua Tree and Melanie was saying, "Oh my God, imagine seeing the band, in this element." And it's about stretching and free. And I think that was the perfect closer because they were the punctuation mark on freedom, freaks, and fuck off our back.
Yeah, man, that's a good point. They were very. It was a very different set, and it was,
It
man,
was,
it was weird. It was
well,
crazy. It was
it
definitely,
was, it
man.
was,
It was
it
like,
was,
why? It was like, holy shit! I didn't take drugs, but I feel like I did. It was
I
cool. It
felt
was,
like I was following Jim Morrison, the shaman, out
yeah,
of the desert.
totally.
I
So
was going,
Doorsy.
it was very Doorsy, and it was like I felt like one long song.
It was just one long song,
It
wasn't
was
it?
one long song, right?
I mean, I think it
Um,
was just one, but it was. But you're right, man. It was different. It was experimental. It was ballsy. It was like, and people
and
ate it up. And I talked to several people who said that was their favorite set.
yeah,
And I've seen Mario, so I've seen him with Fatso Jetson, and I've seen him with Brent Bjork, doing the Brent Bjork trio, and I've seen him with,
nice.
man, it's like that dude is
It's
like some kind of fucking god, man. He is like fuck. That
oh,
dude just
he
like brings, like, he has a mystique that nobody else real on the scene really has. He's like that most mysterious like character. Yeah. He's like, there's not a lot of people that I get all starstruck around, and like, but I like, he's one of them for sure for me.
well. I was debating who to have the opening quote for Gardenia. Um, it was originally first Brand Bjork, which wouldn't have been bad at all, but then I ended up it was Mario, and the quote was, um, it was from an old interview he did for some mini Stoner Rock documentary, which I think this scene deserves a larger documentary done by a pro
And a real
soon.
good one, man. Like you've mentioned
A real
before,
good one. A
like
real good one, which is like just nothing in between now. Just hit it while it's global. But the quote I used for the Gardenia one, um, there was no
yeah.
culture in the desert, so we had to
So we,
make our own culture.
yep. Love that quote. Yeah.
Right? And that's this is the culture. Like it is counter. And that's where it feels very similar to like that whole late 60s, early 70s period where there's so much like I we're on top of the scene pretty good. But
Yeah.
there's many days I feel like it's running away from me.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Oh
and I love
God.
that.
I
I
do
love
like. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, um I love the fact that it is. Um I don't want to be I mean for a lot of my life, I was the guy people go, "Hey, Sneal, what bands are coming to town?" I was the one who got tickets. Um and it's great. Um but it's also exhausting. Like I
Hmm.
want someone else to, hey, can you like give me a tip as to a band to see or check out or you know, like that's
I
I
love
want
being
that.
part of this. That's, you know what, man. I love being part of this community online, especially because, man, I'm telling you what, I feel exactly the same way. It's like, could somebody tell me about a new band?
Yeah,
And now I
yeah.
get that. Now I get it. Like, and being part of the Doom charts, it's like I get it. Like, oh, could we slow it down a little bit? But yeah, man, it's kind of like there was some pressure. Did you feel like some weird pressure to be always? I mean, I was always like, you knew what the show
Oh,
was going to be. You knew who the hot band was, and that was all. It was always on you, though, right?
well, I mean, and luckily that benefited, I saw a lot of bands early prior to the internet. Like you had to look at pay attention to alternative magazines, hey,
Yeah,
who's coming to town. You really had to get your ear to the ground.
yeah, it was
Like,
the same way, man. Yeah,
like I mean, I couldn't capture everything. I mean, I missed seeing Caius in 1992 at a small club in which now everyone says they were there. The club only holds 150
Uh-huh.
people. So relax, okay? You weren't there.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw Nirvana in this little coffee shop in Boulder, and yeah,
okay,
there's
see, that's a great
thousands of
story.
people at that show. Amazing now.
um, but I did see Caius on their uh, and Circus Leaves Town tour. So I did catch a lot of artists, uh, and I was curious, but I just thought, well, I'm young. I'm in my late 20s. 1994, I turned 30, and that's why this book is so important to me because I'm not writing in a past tense.
Yeah, man.
I'm writing
That's
in the
why it
past tense.
resonates with me too.
I'm talking about the now. If there was, if let's say the scene ended in 2012 or Stoner Rock, and I don't want to write a book about something which, as great as it might have been, that's not me. Somebody else wants to write a book about the
Sure.
scene. What precipitated was I'm getting older and music is getting I'm enjoying music more. And first time I go, okay, Sunil, I think you're drunk. Double check again. Nope. I'm listening to music more.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't have
yeah,
all the
definitely.
memories, but I do have the memory of that amazing period of, Sleep, Monster Magnet, Fu Manchu, Caius, and of course everything out of Seattle, alternative scene, and a whole bunch of other things going. Like, yeah, everyone will go that was the heyday of music. It was one amazing period. But but I enjoy this period more.
Yeah, you know what, man? Yes, and this is my favorite period of music as well. But you know
It
what?
is. It's
One
my
of the
favorite.
things that I liked about your book was, since we're roughly the same age, enjoyed the parallels and differences of how we discovered certain bands, and like when I read in your book that the Grand Illusion was like the first album that you purchased,
Six.
man, that is the first rock album that I did not purchase it with my own money, but my it was the first rock album that I specifically asked for and my father gave me.
Really?
And so, yeah, so Man in the Wilderness, like, resonates with me. Miss America, I really love Miss America because it was such a hard rocker, and I knew, like,
Oh,
that's probably when I was like,
somebody
geez,
should.
I really like this shit. Like,
Somebody like
and
that song is still ballsy, but
yeah,
man, I would love for a current band, the scene, to do a kick-ass cover of Miss America.
yeah, I would too. It's such a good
Just
song. And people are
it's
laughing and they're like, oh my God, they're talking about Sticks. But, like that was a parallel for us. My first concert was Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh was the first concert I saw when I was 13 years old. And man, I grew up on this block, and I was the young kid, and I had a bunch of older kids on the block that turned me on to rock and roll right away, and weed. Thanks, guys. But so I had a really early introduction to Yes, or Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, so it was cool to read those parallels, and then some of that stuff like we came to in different periods of our lives, and but regardless of when we came to those, where our similarities, when we reached those similarities, like it's cool how we ended up, because when I read your book, you like the same things about music that I liked. And obviously, if you guys have not read this book, you really need to read this book, and you really need to go back and listen to a lot of the older music that Sunil's talking about in this book. If you're familiar with the newer music, and obviously if you're only familiar with older music, you're not fucking listening to this podcast. But if you are, fucking pick up some Domkraft or something like that. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed the humanity of the stories, walking to the record stores, feeling nerdy maybe around certain kids, or feeling cool around other kids. Man, that book, but really resonates with me, even if not all the same music necessarily does, but
no
gosh, most of it does.
most. I think what I was trying to do is because I am drawn to authors, and my favorite author, was Anthony Bourdain. Um, only because his honesty level was just at another level. And his right, like I mean, I know he's a chef cook, but he was super smart, well read, really well read, um, excellent writer. Um, and so I was really, and I met Bourdain in 2005 at a book signing for his French cookbook Les Halles. But I was inspired. He was Bourdain's been was in this in Sonic Seducer. Um, he's in the last chapter where he's talking about the country artist from Nashville. Um, and that was my last words for about Bourdain. But I've always been drawn to authenticity and honesty,
Yep.
even if it's not my jam. And that's why a
Yeah.
good documentary is a great documentary. It should shed light on something that you know nothing about, but now might be interested in, like the Dogtown Z Boys. If you knew nothing about skateboarding, whatever, one of the best documentaries, you
Right.
know.
Exactly.
And so is the one after that, Riding Giants, about the surfing. That's another cool documentary. So I want to, when I told the story, I just want to tell, like, yeah, my first two purchases were sticks, Grand Illusion and Cornerstone. I wasn't cool. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what, you know, and it was important for me to put that because I am now fucking cool. My kids think I'm cool.
You are
Like, you
fucking
know,
cool. Dude, there's no
yeah,
doubt you're
like
fucking cool.
this is how the story's ending now. He's fucking cool, right? But I
Definitely.
wasn't cool for during the period where you're supposed to be cool or cool pays dividends. No, I was and I think because in the book I took the run. I went to a head shop and started talking to people, uh, and there's a lot of luck involved too. Yeah, curiosity, but I met the right people. As I said, I met the wrong people at the right time.
Yeah, me too. It was fantastic.
The
Caused
wrong
a lot of
people at the right
problems in my
time.
life and created a lot of joy.
Uh, and I think that's and I Bill Curls, who runs the King Buffalo page.
Yeah.
First thing he said when he started reading the PDF of it, he goes, "Why do I think this book is about me?" Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
and I
Oh,
think for a lot of people, because of the music we listened to, we went through probably some awkwardness in school, maybe not. Uh, like there's people who come to Ripple by themselves, and this is really important. They actually want to come to Ripple by themselves because this is where they have their family and friends. There's nobody back home that's into what they're listening to. So they're more than happy to make this pilgrimage, once, twice, wherever a year to be with similar people.
yeah.
It's their family.
I'm insanely fortunate to be in a relationship with someone who enjoys the same music
Oh my
that I do.
goodness.
It's like amazing. And honestly was not a requirement for my relationship because I thought that was such a there's no fucking way that's going to happen. And so I'll
Okay,
tell you,
so
it's awesome to come in the door, walk in the door, and someone's got the new Luna Soul album on the stereo, and I didn't put it there. Somebody else put it on. It's like, fuck yeah.
well,
So yeah, but I
it's in
get that, bud. And if I didn't have that relationship with Andrea, I would definitely want to go to those events by myself because, like I saw some people at Planet Desert Rock, and you could tell, man, their girlfriends were just like, I fucking had enough tonight. I don't want to be here anymore. And it's like, and I get that too. It's not everybody's jam, right?
no, it's not everybody's jam, and like you said, it's not important. It wouldn't have been a deal breaker. Now, having said that, um, uh, when I got divorced in 2010, uh, after about a year, my sister and I went out for dinner, and she asked, like, "Hey, you haven't you haven't broken down. You're a pretty emotional person. You've got two small kids." She was worried that I didn't have a breakdown. So I was going, can I explain it to you this way? And we're at this Hakka restaurant, which is a fusion of Indian and Chinese. And I pulled out all these condiment bottles. I said, let's say this one represents my marriage. It's broken. Okay, it's broken. Should I've made that vessel bigger? We can argue that till the cows come home, but it's broken. But all these other ones, my friends, family, job, career, interests, hobbies, pastimes, uh, they're all intact. So if 90% of my life, again, should I have made the marriage one and prioritize it? Yeah, that's part of the reflection back. But if 90% of my life is intact, how can I be in a stage of deep mourning?
Sure, you're still getting an
So
A.
so going back to what you're talking about, Andrea. So my sister goes, okay, so what are you going to do different this time? This is like 13 years ago. I remember this. I'm not making this up. And I pause and I go, music. Whoever I'm with, I'm not going to compromise that.
I think that's important. It's like, yeah, I
It,
get,
it
I
felt
get
it
that.
felt
I totally get it, man.
it felt petty saying it. It felt, but my sister, she listens to the same music. She's super cool. My sister's like one of my soulmates. I mean, they're super super cool. Um, and that's my brother. Like we're so, and they're both in the book. So lucky to have seen. We all have similar tastes. My brother's younger, so he's got a little bit more different taste. But we all love seeing live music,
Yeah.
and you know, I, she understood. It wasn't like she going rolling her eyes in the back of her head, going, "Okay, whatever. You're probably gonna strike out in your next relationship." She was saying, "Okay, let's hold you to that now."
Yeah, man. But so my marriage, gosh, just on a quick personal note, my marriage fell apart because I absolutely love smoking weed and it fucking is good for me mentally. And I have some physical fucking issues now from my accident I was in. It helps me with my pain. But that was not an area where my ex was willing to compromise on. And so my one thing beyond music was I can't be in a relationship with someone who's going to judge me for fucking smoking weed. So I get like, you gotta have that one thing, right? The music thing, thank God, came in line for me. But I wonder if had it not, would, I wonder if that would have caused a problem. Like, because it is so important to me. I wonder,
It probably, and
man.
I don't think you should feel shame about it. It probably would have, only because if we've talked about music for the length of time we have, and I've written a book, obviously it's a deep priority and has a lot of
Yeah.
uh, benefits, deep spiritual. It
Hmm.
does. Like it's not an appendage part of me. It's part of my circulatory system,
For
music and
sure.
mathematics. You can't take it apart. I can't park it. Um, you know, I realized that if I, when I was in situations where, oh, can you turn that down? Or not, or you're not even inquiring what it is. Yeah, that built in some kind of resentment, and who knows
Yeah.
where else it kind of manifested. So, once you get to a certain age, it's not just with music, it's with a lot of things. And this is why I think Ripple and going to festivals is is so good, because one of the things I ask people, I'll ask you too, if you were to graph your authentic self and where it shows up in a 24-hour day, 1 week cycle, 1 month, like where can you exhibit close to 100% of who you are? Um, you know, for most people, it kind of hovers bobs between 40 and 60, 70%. And everyone's okay with that. But there's no place, and this includes them going to bed, where even their authentic self shows up before they go to bed. People don't know who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
So one thing which music does and completely supports is I'm only going to go to spaces where I'm addicted to only showing up close to 100% of who I am. And there's a lot of good friends, and I can go out, whatever. I've cut that social shit out. I'm not interested in half-assing it, or someone only inquiring about the cliched uh, part of me that they know and not inquiring about anything else. I don't got time for that. I only got, I don't got, I'm 60, I'm not 30. I'm at
But
the other end.
I'm in the weed business because I love it. I do this stuff because this music is the other part of my life that I love. And but I agree. I'm trying to be you've met me. You've actually met me. That's 100% me. The guy that you've met is the guy
I
that
know
I
it is.
am. And I love that about you too, because I know the same thing. And it's meeting like people like Colin out there or John Gist. It's like, you're meeting very authentic people. And
Everyone.
like, I love that when I talk to you, that I know that no matter where I would happen to run into you, that it's just you, bud. I love that.
It's and music has helped has allowed that confidence to um, have your authentic self show up, but also be protective of it. So, okay, people might go, well, you can't be, talking about Dozer and, all these bands all the time. Okay, why? Like, tell me why? Because it's like an art form. We talk about cooking or food or something else. Like, okay, well, we go to like most of my friends and most of our friends, their leisure time is spent like being passive observers of, let's say, sports,
Yeah.
um, or watching something else, and uh, they don't use their leisure time to create. Like, I'm not
Right.
saying everyone's got to be a writer or a musician or whatever, but that also goes back to having, like, why are so all these musicians that play, the part of the scene? Some of them are probably just juggling three jobs and trying to. It's because the endorphin release they're getting of their authenticity being
Yeah.
validated, reflected back repeatedly. They can't get that anywhere
Nope.
in society.
Nope. Yeah, I agree.
It's a hit, a narcotic hit that you cannot purchase, get anywhere. Like, I have friends who go to shows. I, some of them will probably go see Oasis. And they'll say, yeah, okay, but they won't be talking about it 6 months later.
No.
They're not going to be talking about Oasis 3 years from now, though. It was saw them that, and that's what are you into at the moment? That's my like. I would hate to know the answer of that question with a lot of my friends. What are you like passionate about that nobody else knows?
Yeah.
Or what I see is what I get.
Yeah. What I like about meeting someone like you is I don't have to know you long before I know how passionate you are about the very subject that we're talking about, because it works its way into the conversation. You know,
It
like
just does.
like our music is so important to us that you know, it like comes up, man, because it's on our minds, right?
And and I know, like, the only people who I say things like to my daughter, I'll say it, or to my sister, and I'll say it to you. And maybe you've known me now. Like, I'm not. I'm like Jay Adams. And what I mean by that, not like in terms of. I, one of the things in the documentary was that Jay Adams, after he did the move, even while he was doing it, he already moved on. And what I'm saying is, like, I've written the book and it's great. I got a math summit that I'm planning. Um, I don't want to, like, if someone says, Neil, my God, you've written math books and a music book, and that's great, and someone wants an audit of what I've done, I will honor that, and go, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But I don't want to talk about it. Like, if someone else brings it up, I'll talk about it. But I want to talk to people on a human level. So after
Yeah.
we've, like, that's how we get to talk to, you know, uh, the artists after the show, because they're on the same. We're fans of the music. Yeah, you're the lead singer for Dozer or Domkraft, but after you've finished performing, like when I was talking to uh, Frederick uh, of Dozer,
Yeah.
we talked about his kids, his three sons. Like, what kind of world are they going to come into? And like, that happened very quickly within 2 minutes.
Do you get that from the people that you do math conferences with? Is there a difference there, or is it similar?
Yes, except for a few friends, and one of them is mentioned in the book. Is the last story in the book. Zach Champagne, another brother from another mother. Um, I don't mind saying this, and I know maybe some math people, but there
My
is no
God, if there's
comparison
any
between.
math people watching this right now, I, thank you so much. I appreciate you
Oh,
so much. Thanks for
um,
tuning in. That's fucking awesome. But go ahead, Sunil. I'm
there
sorry.
is there's a, there's no comparison between this community and what I get from the math community. The math community, it's more like high school in a negative way. It's got its clique, it's got a popularity thing. There's ego. There's a
Hmm.
lot of politics in this space, which is one reason why I'm kind of receding from it and trying to do my own thing. And part of my own thing is organizing this global math summit in Sardinia with a whole bunch of people, which
Exciting.
even if we ran 3 episodes of the show, I couldn't even explain how it came together. But the parallels are that just like this music scene is breaking away, has broke from the mainstream, the type of music, the people who cover it aren't. There's nobody mainstream covering this, even though we're in the second, third generation of the internet, where everything's available. There should be no excuses like, "Well, I've never heard of stoner rock."
I
Fuck
know.
off. Fuck. You know what? If you haven't, you're in this music business and you haven't heard of it. Come
I
on.
appreciate the opportunity, you guys that haven't heard of it. Thank you.
Like that, it's bollocks. I love that word. Bollocks. You're trying to only cover stuff that's going to make you look good. It's too late for you to come in. It's too late for the Eddie Drunks to come in because that's the point. You could play a dozen bands which are better than the stuff he listens to, the recycled stuff.
Yeah,
But he's not gonna all of a sudden go, "Whoa, where have I been?" Oh, that's not in his DNA personality. He's
right.
got to be in charge of, crossing his arms and wondering what the fuck Kip Winger's up to. I'm sorry. I'm just.
So now I talk about that, and it's like, like I said earlier, it's like the resources are there, the information's available, the music's available. If you really want to fucking listen to Poison for some fucking whatever fucked up reason that might be, then go ahead, I guess. At least you're not at my show, like making it harder for me to get a ticket, making my band access
Yeah,
harder. I mean, maybe I don't like if you don't want to be there,
we
then
we
I don't know if I really want you to be there.
we don't. I don't want any of those mainstream journalists to break the scene or whatever. This scene is doing perfectly fine.
I
It's
think so too.
it's got festivals all over on both sides of the Atlantic. We got one, Rune Mountain, which is in the second year, which is going to be amazing. Like
Okay.
it's growing. It's going to keep doing this.
All right.
Um, and for me personally, the next thing I want to do, which I want to like, so I'm going to be sending out some books. I'm going to be sending a copy to uh, Nancy Wilson's agent, which I posted, and I
I
wouldn't have
saw it,
posted
man.
that
That's
like
fucking cool.
no, seriously. It was like a minute. Like I sent it. I found out where the uh, email address, the agency. She's got 3 agents. I think I picked the first one top. Email. Okay, 5 days later, I'll get a reminder in my Gmail that you sent this, and I see ping. It's like, and it gives the address. Thank you.
Oh, that's so cool.
So the fact that she's going to get the book, she's in the book. I mean, I want people who are from that generation, and Roger Fisher too, of Heart, because he wrote a really cool story about him and Nancy in the book that he shared with me. Um, I want them to understand that there is this world of music that was very similar in terms of the ethos and
Yeah.
the creative freedom in which they spoke about. They grew up with the Beatles and
They
that kind of
inspired it.
stuff. They inspired it. Like I in the book I write about when Mick Jagger introduced the Beatles to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he's talking the song "Love Me Do," and he was mad at the Beatles because they wrote that because he loved that song, especially for the harmonica. Now, obviously, it's more than 60 years later, but at that time, that's cutting edge.
Huh.
Like
Other
that's
stuff.
cutting edge. Of course, it came from the '50s, and and going back to blues artists of the '30s and stuff like that. And the Beatles will obviously tell you that. and same with Zeppelin, the Stones. But every moment in time, there's a creative edge in where artists have reached their edge. And the Beatles were at the edge for their entire career, pushing pop music and psychedelic music, even Helter Skelter, you know. So it's
That's
all
it.
relative.
It's cool. That's what I loved about the Clash when I was growing up, because that as they progressed from a punk rock
Oh,
band into like the same kind of thing, pushing like all these different genres, especially on London Calling, which is my favorite album probably ever. That kind of stuff.
oh, it's
Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. And I think you talked about earlier in the interview here, um, the freedom of the music now, as we move beyond just Fat Sabbath riffs, which we both love, but we're moving beyond the. There's an album earlier this year by Star Beast for me that
I saw Star
really
Beast.
like broke that open for me in a cool way. And like I like Thousand Mod's new album, how they have explored new sounds. And we're fortunate that I think the genre's strong enough for bands to like be a little more experimental, and I think they're going to be met with open minds for the most part.
It's 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 going to keep growing for the rest of this decade. Um, I know, as we said, there's a documentary somewhere, uh, especially because it's global.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. It's global, and it's also because it's gone undetected. Like I don't understand. We had this in our first. Like I don't understand how. Again, if we're listening to some sort of weird beat, like some weirdo dark stuff, I get it. But like, for example, like, I think I just saw a post by Todd for the band Gin Lady, and I want to make sure yeah, I go, did I put Gin Lady in the book? Yeah, from Sweden. Slinky, bluesy, roots like rock that just keeps getting better and better.
Oh,
New album out in 2025. Um that's the irony is that it's all that stuff that generation loved a lot of their youth, parked it, said that was the best music ever made. And that's not true, except for
nope.
that 68 to 72 period. This is nothing. This is just the highest point it's been in
Yeah. It's
generations.
cool how I was listening to Void Commander today, and they do a really nice job of doing that 60s psychedelic blues thing and then adding the new stoner doom elements to it and stuff. And I love that, how these bands are tributing that stuff
Well, I
without being
I'm
boring, with like reaching
well,
new heights, mixing music in new ways, experimenting with new sounds for their guitars. It's not the same tone, stuff like that.
look, I
Go
know
ahead,
we
I'm
talked
sorry.
about Ripple in a macro sense, but I know you've been wearing the shadow, you are wearing the Shadow of Jupiter shirt, and
Yeah,
I mean that set, which is like the kickoff of the outdoor first band. It's super hot, and the enthusiasm, energy of them, and then it's like they're playing with a combination of wow, we're so happy and grateful to be here, but we deserve to be here. Like there's a nice balance between gratitude and
mm-hmm.
let's rock, right?
Heck yeah,
And I think that there's so many bands which are symbolic of the this new renaissance age.
yeah,
But like, we call them posts all the time, old school, like, even John, with Robin Trower and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Like, it was deep in the roots of that stuff. And, I put a post on it. I think you saw it, of Bob Seger, Rambling Gambling Man.
Oh, my favorite Bob Seger song by a million miles.
Wow, was that on fire?
Dude, like,
When it's going.
seriously, like, I don't know how you can listen to that song without getting up and moving around. Like, that's the
Exactly.
fucking, but like, that song's fucking, like, if you don't like
Oh
that
my,
song, then I get it. We just don't like the same kind of shit.
no,
I don't know
I,
how you
look,
can not like that song.
there, you, if you don't like that song,
We probably don't have a lot to talk
you've
about.
got, there's some problems going on.
Yeah, yeah. That
Like there's I don't and I'm just using that one song, and there's obviously hundreds like it. If you like this song,
yeah,
which I know you do,
yeah. You're gonna like our
here's
music.
band A, B, C, D, and E. This one's from Sweden. This one's that you will like because of this. And look, I just said it, but honestly, I don't have the. If I was drunk at a bar or whatever, I might start going into like a, Scotch malt diatribe or whatever. But that's why I wrote the book. I'll go, can you just read this book? I'll give it to you for like everything's in the book, the whole story, everything, because my
This book
patience.
is every story Andrea has to suffer through every night living with me. Oh my God, Andrea, let me tell you why I like Rush. Oh, the poor lady. But seriously, man, like this, like that's, if you haven't read it, you should. That's what this book resonates with me because like Bill said, this is my, like, did I write? Like, and the cool thing is not all the experiences are the same. Not all the
No,
band
no.
connections are the same, but all those
I
feelings are the same. All those things that you went through, we all like went through in developing our love for music. Maybe not in the same steps, but like, man, that
no,
book, like
no.
your
We
book is so, like the word you keep using, authentic. Your book is very authentic.
authentic human. We all ended up at the same place, right?
Yeah,
We all end up in 2024 and soon to be 2025. That's why the last chapter is going to be a living anthology. So I'll keep updating that book, like that last chapter, with all the bands coming in. I
that'd be
might,
great.
but that is going to be a living anthology. That's what will be expanded in terms of the bands coming up, and that will every year or 6 months there'll be,
So
or every year
Ripplefest
there'll be.
edition every year.
Oh no, that well. So I can I don't I don't think Todd or Ryan have a problem. So the the proceeds that Ripple will get from the book, and one of the reasons I chose just labels, I don't want to give my money to Bezos and
Yeah, I
Amazon.
want to talk. I want
So
to talk about your relationship with Ripple Music. So just jump right in
yeah,
there because I think it's
okay.
super
So
exciting.
what I discussed first with Ryan, I know Ryan and Todd work closely together, and this was Todd's sort of final kind of what we agreed to, like, so the 30% that I would have given to whatever, so which goes to Ripple, but that 30% is going to go to like an emergency relief fund for bands going to Ripple. So
Hell yeah!
who knows what it might be,
Like your van breaks down, kind of thing.
something, yeah, but the intention is that this money, yeah, it could have gone back in the label promotion, but let's actually help the artists which are helping the scene. And whatever it is, I mean, hope like, you know, but it's more symbolic that we're all trying to do as much as possible to help artists, that there is, okay, this fund, and hopefully, who knows, like maybe a famous musician spreads the love or gospel and buys it, and you know but I know it would make me happy knowing that, hey, if a band taps into it, hey, this busted down or whatever, we had to get a boost, uh, we just can't afford to, okay,
Oh yeah,
there's a fund or something, or just like even when they come to Ripple, like maybe you greet them with, like some beers or some like a welcoming to Ripple, to because they've traveled to far ways and getting visas and all that.
yeah.
Anything which makes their coming into a festival like, yeah, I want to come back.
Right on, man. I think that's fantastic, bud. Um, I know we should probably do another. We're
We
gonna
could,
have to do another show, bud, about your math thing. You're
yeah,
in
well,
Sardinia coming up, your math
yeah,
conference. I
for
think
sure.
that's super interesting. But man, is there anything that you want to close with? I mean, we've gone for about an hour and 20, so I figure we're like probably pushing the attention
There's
spans,
never any
especially of you
there's,
Americans out there. God knows you can't pay attention for more than 5 fucking minutes. Um, anyway,
uh,
Sunil.
I think there's never any closing. I think I just want to sort of, all the people that I met, all the quick sort of, adding friends on Facebook. But the thing which I found is that these new friends, going back to that A word, authenticity, right? Like I have such a strong connection with all these people that I met, and whatever like or comment they make, it just has more than some people have known for a long time. And
Yeah,
what's the
bud.
different? What's the part that differentiates it? It's the music, right?
You know, like just really quick, I didn't, like I think like one of the things we go through life, we really like wonder about why we're here, why are we alive, what's our existence mean? But, man, I think the answer of music is a pretty legitimate answer, and it's really when I'm listening to music, and especially if I'm on a live show, it does seem to be, I mean, outside of some unmentionables, but besides, intimate times with another human, I think that like my experiences at concerts are when I feel the absolute most alive.
And we're talking about those concerts now, like they're in the past tense. But talk about purpose of life. And my daughter Rhea, who's 16, she said this answer of the purpose of life 2 years ago, maybe when she was 14. And first I go, and now I've realized, wow, there's so much truth to that. She goes, Poppy, I think the purpose of life is to have memories. And it sounded like kind of like light and kind of like, but then as I thought about it, and here we are talking about our memories of
Yeah.
Ripple and our memories of music and childhood, and how rich those memories are, which also take us into the future. There's a lot of truth in that. Like, what will be your rear view mirror? What will be your memories, your lasting memories? It will be those moments and seconds that you spent with the people you care about the most. And what was that medium? It's also mathematics for me, not as often as music, but that's where we're so lucky. Like we are ridiculously lucky to have the music and each other.
Yes. And that's man, let's just wrap it up with that. That's an
Yeah,
incredible
let's
wise
on
thing
that
from
note,
your
let's stop.
child, man. That's amazing. Hey, Sunil, I'm gonna just stop recording now. Thank you very much for
Sure.
being here, bud. But if you'd hang on for a second, I'd appreciate it,
For
man.
sure, absolutely.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. Sunil, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here, man.
Cheers.
Yeah!